Hey everyone, it's Boogeyman Ben. Hope everyone's doing well and everyone's having a great day. This is going to be a return to a segment that I started last year on this channel, and it was I only did one of them, and I did it last Halloween, and it was on the character of Dr. Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance in the Halloween franchise. And this segment is called Horror Heroes, and this is something that I wanted to revisit this year. I actually wanted to revisit it earlier this year, but just didn't have the time. But I'm really happy to be bringing this segment back. This is going to be one of several videos in this new series, and it's one that I'm really excited to do for this channel. For today's video, just because last week I talked about this new book that I picked up, and I'll showcase it again real quick. It was the Curious Goods Behind the Scenes of Friday the 13th, the series. I started thinking about the character from this show that I really identified with growing up, and that was the character of Ryan Dallion, played by the great John D LeMay. I was about 13 years old when this show started, and I showcased all of the seasons. I have all of the seasons here. The show ran for 3 seasons. And the Ryan character was one that was just really... Again, I was a teenager, just coming to be a teenager, 13, and I really identified with Ryan because he had a lot of things. The character had a lot of things in his life that were similar to things that were going on in my life at the time, and so, he was one of the first characters that I didn't really identify with a lot of characters growing up. I mean, there was characters like maybe the Tommy Jarvis character from Chapter. Is one, but again, when I was a teenager, I really had a hard time with my identity. I really thought that I was kind of a strange kid, and I had a hard time figuring out who I really was and where I fit. And I still, even going to my adult years, I've had that issue. But for some reason, I just remember the Ryan character and the fact that he had some things that were similar to his character, the way that John D LeMay played him. There was just things about him that I really related to, and I felt like this would be a perfect part 2 to this segment. So I hope everyone enjoys my talking about the character of Ryan Dallion from Friday the 13th, the series. Please stay tuned. So in season 1 of the series, as it opens with the episode "The Inheritance," and we first meet Ryan Dallion, he's kind of he's silly. He has a lot of goofy charm, which I related to right away because I always tried to be funny as a kid. But that was something that I related to right away watching this show. The Inheritance was not the first episode of the show I watched. The first episode of the show that I watched was Shadowboxer. And that was one where I discovered that Ryan was an artist, and he had an affinity for comic books. And he was a comic book collector and an artist, and I was really big into comic books. That was like the first thing I was ever a collector of. As the series went on, and as the situations that the cousins and Jack Marshak found themselves in, trying to retrieve these cursed objects, he got more and more. The series. He sort of had this arc where he started kind of just like in one place, and then as the series got more serious and things started happening to them, he got more serious, and he started taking on the responsibility of trying to retrieve these cursed objects, and I really thought that was just an admirable quality. I mean, here was a guy that had no, of course, their uncle was the one that made the pact with the devil and sold the cursed antiques, but they could have walked away. And Mickey, the character of Mickey, had she was more hesitant to stay and keep trying to retrieve the objects, whereas Jack and Ryan felt like they had an obligation to do so. And especially the Ryan character, I just, he had, he was estranged from his father and his mother, and, he had a hard childhood. And you find out in the episode Scarecrow that his younger brother had died when they were really young, and that was something that he's always been guilt-ridden over. And I think I just really identified with the Ryan character because of his sense of obligation, because of the fact that he took retrieving these cursed antiques seriously. I mean, he still had that sense of humor to him that established him early on in the series. But as the episodes got more and more serious, as you got into like the second season, where some of the situations got even more grave, you know, you just saw a very big change in the character. You saw this arc to him where, you know, it wasn't all fun and games. It was actually serious, and he was taking it seriously. One of my favorite episodes of the series was Pipe Dream, and that was one of the last episodes of season one, where Ryan and his estranged father reconnect after many years. And growing up, I always had a weird relationship with my dad. You know, my parents divorced when I was very young, and you know, I was kind of close with my dad as a kid, but as I got older, there was a resentment that developed, and it could have been something that was, you know, my own problem. But again, I was a kid, and we just never really were too close. I mean, there was times that we tried to get close, and there was just something that, you know, would always pull us apart. And it's a little bit too complex to sort of go into here, but I really identified with the episode Pipe Dream because you see the tension between Ryan and his dad, and I really thought that that was a great episode, showing, you know, where his dad was coming from, because in the episode you see that Ryan's dad Ray is actually using a cursed object, a cursed pipe that the Uncle Lewis had given him, and I really just really felt for Ryan in this episode, and you know, I just like I said, I identified with it, even though when I saw this episode I was barely 14 years old. Another fantastic episode in this season was Double Exposure. And this is dealing with a cursed camera. And in this episode, Ryan's girlfriend is killed in a horrific manner. And again, John D LeMay's performance is fantastic. I remember I had a couple friends in school that were watching this show at the same time, and I had a friend who just really, like, you know, we were kids, we were teenagers, and but she really was affected by what Ryan goes through in this episode, and just, you know, the anger that he has and the guilt that he has over what's happened to his girlfriend. And I really, again, John D LeMay was fantastic in this episode. One of my favorite episodes of season one was Scarecrow, and this is the episode where Ryan um, confesses to Mickey about his brother's death when they were kids, and I just thought that sort of showed you a different side to Ryan. It showed you the sensitive side that was kind of almost being hidden by, you know, the jokester from the earlier episodes in the season. And I really thought John D LeMay played it really, really well. I mean, you really feel for the loss that Ryan has gone through in his life. A very strong episode in season two was Tales I Live, Heads You Die, which is an episode where one of the cousins, Mickey, is actually killed by the cursed object. And this was one where it sort of threatened to break up the group of Jack, Mickey, and Ryan. Later in the episode, they're able to bring her back, but for some reason, this again, it was another performance by John D LeMay. Again, you see this tremendous arc to the Ryan character, and as he's faced with these situations, how he reacts to them, and he reacts to them, I think, as I would, and that's how, I just like the scene where he finds Mickey dead on the ground is heartbreaking, and the love that he feels for her, it just it just comes out in his performance, and it's such a great episode. Some of my favorites were and now the news. 13 o'clock. It was also Wax Magic, The Sweetest Sting, Coven of Darkness. Just fantastic episode. Now, when season 3 was about to start, and again, this is before the internet and everything, I was unaware that John D LeMay was going to be leaving the show. He was only going to be in 2 episodes of the season, and it was the 2-part opener called The Prophecies. Now, not to spoil anything from this book, because I do want people that are fans of the show to pick this book up, but this book really goes into details about why John D LeMay left the show. And it was really interesting to read this, because before this book, I had no idea why he left the show. I just kept thinking maybe he just, some people grow out of things, people want to do different things. But this book really puts it into light. And also the Friday the 13th Crystal Lake Memories documentary talked about it a little bit. But this book really talks about, what compelled him to leave the show. And it's sad that he left the show when he did, because I feel like if he would have stayed with the show, I think it would have, maybe the show would have been picked up for another season. I mean, nothing against his replacement. I do like Steve Monarque, who played Johnny Ventura. He kind of was established early in season 2. I mean, he was kind of established as a character in a couple of episodes in season 2. But he just didn't have the chemistry to take on the lead role, because John D LeMay was the lead in the show, and it just wasn't the same without him. But again, the way Ryan goes out in The Prophecies, I thought was really awesome, and I don't want to give too many details away. He's willing to do what's right, even at some of the most gravest of circumstances. And I think that's just what I loved about the character so much. And like I said, he was only in a couple episodes in season 3, and they referenced him a couple times in the series in season 3. But yeah, just the show wasn't the same without him, and it was really hard for me as a kid to continue watching the show, and I kept hoping that maybe he would come back in some capacity, but he never did. And then the show was abruptly canceled after season 3. But yeah, for some reason, the Ryan character was just always one that I identified with. Growing up, I was a loner. I liked a lot of weird things as as you can see from this room, this horror zone that I call my own, that I have collected all of my childhood memories and the things that I love. You know, I grew up a loner, and I grew up, you know, loving books and toys and horror movies. And there was a character in the show that I became fascinated with, and there was this character that I really identified with. Coming into my own as an adult, you know, when you're a teenager, you're just starting to figure out who you are. And there was this character on TV that I figured, you know, it's like, this is somebody I would like to be like. You know, this is somebody that I would like to, I feel like this is a good person. This is a person that he likes some of the similar things that I do. And he's in this, you know, extreme situation of having to right these wrongs that were committed by his uncle. And he doesn't back down from that commitment. I mean, he stays with it, and he's driven to do it. Even if he does, you know, like I said, you know, when it starts off, he's at one place, and then he has this tremendous arc that goes through the rest of the series that that the character is in. And I just really love that about the show. I think it's a tremendous, saying so many tremendous things about John D LeMay's performance as the Ryan Dallion character. I don't think I would like the character as much if any other actor had played him. And I think it's awesome that he's still acting now, and he's doing his own thing, and that I am friends with him on Facebook. I mean, it's not like we're best buddies or anything, but I can follow him on Facebook, and he has responded to things that I've sent to him, you know, just telling him how much I grew up idolizing him and the character. And, you know, hopefully one day I'll get to meet him at a convention and tell it to him face to face, because it would be a tremendous honor to meet him. And, you know, like I said, it's like I don't know, like I think of all of the characters that have stayed with me over the years, and a lot of people don't even know about Friday the 13th, the TV series, or they've heard about it, but they never watched it. And he's still, you know, so many years later, I mean, we're going on almost 30 years that this show came out. I mean, 1987. And I still say he's in my top 10 of favorite characters ever. And I don't know why. I think it's just because of how much I related to him growing up, and how some of the parallels between our lives. You know, I know this was a character, this isn't John D LeMay himself, but some of the parallels between that character and my life at that time, and even as I've grown up, are very similar. And, you know, I just always thought he was a cool guy, and just someone that, you know, I would want to be like as I grew up. I think of all of the characters that have stayed with me over the years, and a lot of people don't even know about Friday the 13th, the TV series, or they've heard about it, but they never watched it. And he's still, you know, so many years later, I mean, we're going on almost 30 years that this show came out. I mean, 1987. And I still say he's in my top 10 of favorite characters ever. And I don't know why. I think it's just because of how much I related to him growing up, and how some of the parallels between our lives. You know, I know this was a character, this isn't John D LeMay himself, but some of the parallels between that character and my life at that time, and even as I've grown up, are very similar. And, you know, I just always thought he was a cool guy, and just someone that, you know, I would want to be like as I grew up. So that's going to be about it. And I want to say thank you to everyone for taking the time to watch this video. And again, please share your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from everyone. And I hope everyone will stay tuned for some really cool videos that I'll have coming up real soon. Take it easy. Stay scared.